The monster in chains. Everyone feared her. From the moment the alien ship was found floating near the edge of human space, people whispered her name like a curse. No one knew where she came from, or what species she belonged to. She was taller than any human, with dark purple skin, sharp claws, and glowing yellow eyes. Some said she looked like a demon. Others called her a weapon, but all agreed on one thing: she was dangerous. They kept her in a strong metal cell on Starbase Orion 9. The walls were 10 inches thick, and lasers pointed at her from every corner. Soldiers watched her day and night. She never spoke. She never moved much, but her eyes followed everyone who passed, cold and quiet. People didn't stay near her cell for long. Even the guards stood far away. Some had nightmares after just one look at her. Her name was not written in any galactic record. She had no ID, no translator, no known history. But the file given to the base said she had destroyed 3 small ships. All crew members were lost, so the world called her a killer. One human, though, didn't believe the story. His name was Jack Carter. He was not a soldier, not a scientist, not even part of the security team. He was just a maintenance worker. He fixed wires, cleaned engines, and delivered tools. No one paid much attention to him. That's why he could get close to her cell without being stopped. At first, Jack was just curious. He had heard the stories like everyone else. But when he saw her in person, something felt wrong. She didn't act like a killer. She didn't scream or try to break the cell. She just sat in the corner, chained and quiet. She looked more tired than angry, more hurt than wild. Jack started passing by her cell more often. He never said anything. He just walked slowly, looking at her. Sometimes he stayed for a few seconds, sometimes a full minute. She always looked back but never moved. One day he left a small bottle of clean water near the glass. She didn't touch it. The next day, he left a soft cloth. Again, nothing. But on the 3rd day, she pulled the water bottle closer with her foot. She didn't drink it, but she didn't throw it either. That was a small change, but Jack noticed. He kept coming back. Every time he left something small. A blanket, a packet of dried fruit, even a small music player once with soft earth sounds. Rain, birds, wind. She ignored most of it, but never destroyed it. Slowly, she began placing the items in neat rows along the cell wall. It was her way of saying she understood. Jack started writing notes on paper and sliding them through a small gap under the glass. Simple words. "Are you okay? Do you understand me? Do you have a name?" She didn't answer. But then one day he found the paper pushed back through the gap. The words were shaky, written with a claw but clear. Sura. Her name was Sura. Jack smiled for the first time in weeks. He kept writing, and slowly she began to write back. Her sentences were short and strange, but they made sense. She told him she came from a far world, far beyond human space. Her people had no contact with humans. She had only attacked the ships because they had fired first. She didn't want war. She just wanted to go home. Jack was shocked. No one else knew this. The people in charge never tried to talk to her. They saw her as a weapon, nothing more. But Jack saw something else. He saw fear in her words, pain, even kindness, hidden deep under her tough shell. He realized that maybe she wasn't the monster. Maybe the monster was how others chose to see her. Still, he couldn't tell anyone. If the officers found out he was talking to her, he could be punished or even removed from the base. He was just a worker. No one would believe him. And if they knew Sura could write or understand, they would take her away for testing. He couldn't let that happen. So, he kept their talks secret. Every night he came by with a small gift or note. Every night she gave a small reply. No one else noticed. No one else cared. But Sura noticed. She saw that he didn't fear her. He didn't hate her. He looked at her like she was a person, not a monster. And that changed everything. Because for the first time since her capture, Sura felt something she had forgotten. Hope. Jack's silent gift Sura didn't trust him yet. Even after many days of watching Jack come and go, she stayed quiet. Her glowing yellow eyes followed his every move, but she never spoke a word. She never smiled. She didn't know how to. On her world, smiling meant something different. And where she was now, nothing made sense. Jack, however, didn't stop. He had started with small things: water, cloth, music, things that made life just a little easier. But this time he brought something different, something personal. He carried a small sketchbook in his tool bag, one that no one had ever seen. Inside he drew simple pictures, not machines, not wires, but people, places, dreams. He opened it in front of her cell and sat on the floor. He didn't say anything. He just placed the book down, turned it toward the glass, and opened to the first page. It was a drawing of Earth. Not just a map or a city, but trees, animals, clouds, peaceful things, alive things. He turned the page. A child playing with a dog, a woman looking at the stars, a hand holding another hand. No words, just drawings. Sura stared. Her eyes did not blink. She didn't move closer, but her breathing slowed. Her claws twitched slightly. Jack turned to another page. This time, it was a picture of her. Not the monster version the soldiers believed in. This was Sura sitting calmly, eyes soft, hands folded in her lap. He had drawn her not as a creature, but as a person. Sura looked at that page the longest. Jack stood up, closed the book, and left it on the floor by the glass. Then he walked away. Sura did not touch the book right away. She waited until the lights dimmed and the night cycle started. Then slowly she pulled it into her cell. She turned the pages one by one. Her claws were big, but careful. She didn't damage a single page. She stopped at the page of herself again. Her face in the drawing looked calm, almost safe. No one had ever made her feel that way. The next day, Jack returned. The sketchbook was placed back in the same spot. But something was different. There was a folded paper inside. It wasn't his. It was hers. The lines were crooked. The paper was torn from the food tray. But it was a drawing. Not perfect. Not even clear. But Jack understood. It was him. Sura had drawn him. He smiled without thinking. For the first time, he felt like he wasn't just guessing anymore. She had seen him, truly seen him, not as a guard, not as a threat, as something else, maybe a friend. Jack wrote another note that night. "Why did you draw me?" She replied. "You looked kind." Just 2 words, but powerful ones. Jack started writing longer messages. He told her about Earth, about the oceans, the animals, the music. He described colors she had never seen, tastes she had never tried. He told her about his mother's garden and how the flowers danced when the wind came. He wrote about things that had nothing to do with space or war or fear, and in return she told him small truths. I was taken during sleep. My people do not trust humans. I miss the sky. With each message, their bond grew. Jack now spent more time at her cell than he did at his own quarters. He was careful, always checking if someone was watching, but most people ignored him. To them, he was just the repair guy. They had no idea a silent friendship was forming. One day, Jack came back with something new. It wasn't a gift, it was a question, a big one. He wrote, "What happened to your people?" Sura did not answer for a long time. He returned the next day. No reply. The 3rd day, he found a message. "They betrayed me." Just 3 words. But heavy. Painful. He didn't ask more. Not yet. He knew the wound was deep. Instead, he left a note. "I'm still here." That was the first time Sura touched the glass. Not hard, not loud. Just one claw, pressed gently against it. Jack placed his hand on the other side. And in that moment, something shifted. She wasn't a monster anymore. And he wasn't just a worker. Something new had started. Something the others would never understand. The Truth in her eyes, Jack couldn't sleep that night. Her words kept repeating in his mind. They betrayed me. It wasn't just sadness in her message. It was deep, heavy, like a wound that hadn't healed in years. Jack kept wondering, who were they? Her own people? Or humans? Or both? He returned early the next day. Earlier than usual. He skipped breakfast. He didn't even change his uniform. All he wanted was to see if she was okay. Sura was already waiting at the front of her cell. That had never happened before. Her glowing eyes stared at him, not with anger, but with something new. Something unsure. It was as if she was still deciding if he was different, if he was safe. Jack took a deep breath and wrote a note. I want to understand. Sura didn't write back. She turned away, but she didn't stay turned for long. A few minutes passed. Then she crouched near the glass again and held something in her claw. A long strip of cloth torn from her cell bedding. On it she had drawn symbols. Strange ones. Circles. Sharp lines. Dots. It was not human language. But Jack recognized one symbol. It matched one from an old galactic chart. It belonged to a star system far away, far beyond any human colony. A forgotten place. She was showing him her home. She tapped the symbol gently with her claw, then pointed at her chest. Jack nodded. She pointed again, this time to a different symbol. It was a triangle inside a triangle. She scratched it harder, into the floor, deeper, rougher. Her eyes narrowed. Jack understood. That was their mark, the ones who took her. Sura then pulled another torn cloth and slowly wrote in shaky English, They used me. Jack's hand stopped moving. Used her? What did that mean? He wanted to ask more, he wanted to know everything. But he also didn't want to push her too far, so he wrote, Do you trust me? She looked at him for a long time. Then slowly, she nodded once. That small nod made Jack feel something warm in his chest. In a place where space was cold and silent, that small gesture was everything. The next few days, Sura opened up more. She used symbols, small drawings, and sometimes words to tell her story. She came from a warrior race, but not cruel. Her people believed in strength but also in balance. Sura was part of a group trained to protect their world. Not to invade, but to defend. Then something changed. A new leader came into power. One who believed in expansion. In fear. Sura refused to follow. She spoke against him. That made her a traitor. She was sent on a fake mission, told to explore a new planet. But it was a trap. Her ship was damaged. A signal was sent, making it look like she attacked first. Human. Ships arrived fast, she tried to explain. They fired without warning. She had no choice. Jack felt sick reading her story. All this time, humans believed she was the enemy. But she was running, escaping, trying to survive. And now, locked in a cold metal box, she was alone. Because she had chosen peace. Jack couldn't keep quiet anymore. He started saving all her notes, all her drawings. He wanted proof. Maybe someday he could show someone. Maybe he could clear her name. But he knew it wouldn't be easy. People only saw her as a monster, not as someone who had been hurt. One evening, Jack stayed longer than usual. He didn't leave any notes, he just sat down outside her cell and looked at her. She looked back, and then she did something he didn't expect. She reached out her claw and touched the glass again. Jack placed his hand against it, just like before. She didn't pull away. Her eyes were softer now. No hate, no fear, just quiet understanding. He smiled gently. She didn't smile back, but her breathing calmed, and Jack knew something had changed. The world still feared her, but he had seen the truth in her eyes, and that truth was worth everything. A touch no one dared for days. Jack and Sura continued their silent talks. No one noticed. Not the guards, not the officers, not even the cameras. Jack was careful. He moved like a ghost through the hallways, always at the same time, always carrying tools to look like he was just working. No one paid attention to the quiet worker with oil on his hands. But something was growing behind that thick glass wall, something even Jack didn't fully understand yet. Sura was changing. Her posture was different now. She didn't sit in the corner like before. She sat near the glass, calm, waiting. Sometimes she even tapped the floor with her claw, as if counting the minutes until he came. And when Jack arrived, her yellow eyes didn't flash with warning. They watched him with peace. Jack started bringing old Earth books. Not for reading, just pictures. He showed her oceans, forests, clouds, birds. He showed her what snow looked like, what food looked like, even what kindness looked like. And she showed him things too. Sura began drawing her world. Strange buildings made from living trees, animals that walked with 6 legs, skies that glowed, red at night. She drew one picture of herself standing in a field of floating flowers. The image didn't show a warrior. It showed someone free. Jack kept every picture in a hidden folder under his bed. But no picture could capture the moment. That happened one quiet night. Jack was kneeling by the glass, placing a fresh note. It was simple. Do you still believe in peace? He wasn't sure if she would answer. But then she did something no one expected. She stood up, walked slowly to the front of the cell, and raised her claw, slowly, gently. Jack froze. He had placed his hand on the glass before, but this time she was asking for more. Very slowly, he reached for the small opening in the lower part of the wall, a slot used for delivering food. It was barely big enough for a hand. He hesitated. Just for a second. Then he pushed his hand through. Silence. Her claw moved toward him inch by inch, and then she touched him. Not hard, not fast. Just the tip of her claw brushing against his skin. It was cold, smooth, not sharp, not violent, just real. Jack didn't move. She didn't pull back. That single touch lasted only a few seconds, but it felt like time stopped. This was the moment everything changed. Because no one, no human, no alien, had touched her without fear since she was taken. Sura looked down at her claw, then at Jack's hand, and then back at him. She tapped her chest once, then wrote a word on the floor. Trust. Jack didn't speak. He just nodded. But trust was dangerous. That night, security logs showed an alert near cell block 6. Someone had reviewed the camera feed, but Jack had blocked one of the angles for repair. It worked. For now. But the risk was growing. The next day, Jack was called to the upper deck for a new assignment. A sudden shift. A replacement crew had arrived and new orders were given. Jack was to work farther from the holding cells. It felt like a warning. He rushed back to her cell after hours. He tapped on the glass. She was there, but she looked tense. Something had changed in her too. Her claws tapped fast. Her eyes flicked to the walls, as if watching for someone. Jack passed a note. Are they moving you? She didn't answer, but she pressed a new note through the slot. They know. Jack's chest went cold. All this time he thought no one noticed, but now it was clear. Someone had been watching, and if they knew Sura could understand, could feel, then it wouldn't be long before she was taken for testing, or worse. He looked at her and whispered through the glass, I won't let them hurt you. Her claws gently tapped the floor again. Not in fear, not in panic, but in hope. They had touched. Now they needed to escape. The walls are listening. Jack didn't sleep that night. He kept hearing Sura's words in his mind. They know. Those 2 words changed everything. Until now, their quiet connection was a secret. A hidden bond built through notes, pictures, and one single touch. But now, someone else knew. Someone had been watching, waiting, maybe even planning. Jack wasn't just worried about himself. He was afraid for her. The next day, everything felt different. The hallways of Starbase Orion 9 felt colder. The guards were tighter, more alert. Doors that were always open were now locked. And when Jack passed the commander's office, he noticed hushed voices inside and a message flashing on the wall. Subject transfer approved. Level X lab clearance required. Jack's heart dropped. He knew what that meant. Sura was going to be moved, not to another cell. Not to another prison, but to the research labs. No one ever came back from there. They would run tests on her, cut her, inject her, break her. They would try to understand her by destroying her. That's what humans did when they feared something. They didn't understand. Jack couldn't let that happen. He ran back to her cell after his shift, pretending to check the power lines. Sura was already waiting near the glass. Her eyes looked calm, but only on the outside. Jack could see the tension in her claws, the way her shoulders didn't relax. He passed her a note. They plan to move you, tomorrow. Sura didn't look, surprised. She had known. She pushed back a small piece of metal she had sharpened from her bed frame. She had been preparing. In her own way, she was ready to fight. Jack shook his head. Fighting won't work, he wrote. They're too many. She tapped the word. How? He paused. He had no real plan, but he had something better. Desperation. Jack spent the night studying the base's emergency systems. He had worked on those panels before. He knew how the storm protocols worked. During solar storms, some areas went into full lockdown. Doors sealed, power shut off, alarms paused. Tomorrow a solar flare was expected, just a small one. But maybe, just maybe, it would be enough. He marked the power panel near her cell. If he cut the backup wire at the right second, her cell would unlock during the emergency cycle. Only for a few seconds, but enough. He passed her another note that night. Be ready. When lights flash red, run. Sura stared at him for a long time. Then she wrote one word. Together? Jack smiled. Together. The next day moved painfully slow. Jack waited near the control panel, acting busy, while guards prepared for the transfer. They had no idea what was coming. When the flare hit, the lights across the base flickered. A loud siren echoed through the halls. Warning, solar interference. All systems entering temporary shutdown. Jack ripped the wire. Her cell opened. For a moment, everything stopped. Then Sura stepped out. No one expected her to move so fast, so silent. She didn't roar. She didn't attack. She just ran. And Jack ran with her. They moved through the lower vents, slipping past the confused guards. The backup lights were still off. Cameras weren't working. Everything was chaos. But the silence didn't last long. Shouts began. Orders screamed. The chase started. They reached the docking bay. A small scout ship sat unused in the corner, half broken, missing one wing, but maybe enough to fly. Jack began powering it up. Sura stood at the door guarding him. A guard appeared, gun raised. Sura didn't hesitate. She moved like a shadow, fast and sharp, but didn't kill. She knocked the guard out with the flat of her arm. Jack watched in awe. Even when she could have destroyed him, she didn't. She still believed in peace. The ship engines roared. The hangar doors opened. And just like that, the monster they all feared vanished into the stars, with the only human who had dared to trust her. Monster unleashed, but not for war. The ship shook as it left the station. Metal groaned. Warning lights blinked red. Jack held the controls tightly, his hands sweaty and trembling. The small scout ship wasn't made for escape. It was made for short patrols. But it was all they had. Behind him, Sura stood still, eyes focused on the blackness of space. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Her chest rose and fell with slow, calm breaths. She had waited for this moment for too long. Freedom. But they weren't safe yet. Jack scanned the radar. 2 military ships were already following. Bigger, faster, armed. The station had launched them the second their stolen ship left the dock. He looked back at Sura. "We need speed." She stepped forward, opened a small panel near the engine, and placed her hand inside. The ship began to hum. Then it roared. Jack stared in shock. "What did you do?" Sura pulled her hand away, calm. "Energy boost. From me." Jack didn't understand how, but he didn't ask. Right now he needed her. He needed her power, her focus, her strength. And she gave it without question. The ship pushed forward faster than its original design, but not fast enough. A missile hit the rear side. The blast shook the entire ship. Alarm screamed. Fire sparked behind the seat. Jack struggled to keep the ship steady. One more hit, and they'd be dust. Sura moved to the back and grabbed the fire tools without hesitation. She broke open the wall and started fixing wires like she had done it all her life. Her claws moved fast but careful, like she had trained for it. Within minutes, the fire was out, and power was back. Jack looked at her, stunned. "You're an engineer too?" She glanced at him, only half smiling with her eyes. "Protector. Learns everything." In that moment, he realized she was more than a fighter, more than a monster, more than even a survivor. She was brilliant. But then came the real problem. The two military ships were now close. Too close. A voice came over the radio, cold. Hard. Unidentified vessel. "Stop engines now. Surrender the alien creature and you will not be harmed." Jack didn't answer. The voice repeated, "Final warning. If you do not respond, you will be destroyed." He looked at Sura. "What now?" She walked to the front, silent. Then she did something Jack had never seen her do before. She pressed her claw to the screen and spoke. Her voice came through the ship's speakers, deep, echoing, clear. "I am not a weapon, but I can be." Then she opened the bottom panel of the ship and revealed something hidden, a small but powerful energy core. Jack had missed it earlier, but Sura hadn't. She charged it with her hands. The light from the core turned blue, then white. The energy was strong, almost too strong. Jack shouted, "Are you trying to blow us up?" Sura said calmly, "No, only scare them." She released a bright burst of raw light from the back of the ship, a harmless flare, but powerful enough to shake sensors and blind the enemy for a few seconds. The chasing ships backed off instantly. The flare had made them think the ship carried some secret weapon. Sura looked at Jack. "They fear what they don't understand." He nodded. "Good. Let them fear. Just not you." They broke out of the radar range within minutes. No more chasing ships, no more sirens, just open space. Jack leaned back, breathing heavy. His heart was still racing. He looked at Sura, her face strong but calm. "You saved us," he said. She shook her head. "We saved each other." In the silence of space, that truth felt even louder. Jack didn't know where they were headed. He didn't care. All he knew was this. The galaxy still called her a monster, but now the galaxy had seen what she truly was. Not a weapon, not a killer, but a protector, a leader, a spark, and she was no longer alone. The galaxy watched her rise. The news spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, space stations and outposts received the same strange report. A human and an unknown alien had escaped from Starbase Orion 9. 2 military ships failed to stop them. The alien did not attack, but protected the human. People didn't believe it at first. They had been told she was dangerous, a beast, a monster, something to fear. But then came the video, a blurry clip from one of the patrol ships. It showed her, tall, glowing eyes, claws ready. But instead of fighting, she was saving. She pulled the human out of fire, repaired the ship, dodged attacks without killing anyone. And when she looked into the camera, her eyes didn't show rage, they showed mercy. The galaxy went quiet. For the first time, people saw her not through rumors, not through reports, but with their own eyes. And what they saw wasn't a monster. Far away from all the noise, in a quiet corner of unmarked space, Jack and Sura finally landed. The planet was small, green, full of strange trees and soft light. It wasn't her homeworld, but it felt alive, peaceful, safe. Jack stepped onto the soil first, breathing deep. The air was fresh, cool. He looked up at the stars, then back at her. Sura walked beside him, slow and quiet. No chains, no glass between them, just open space and trust. They built a shelter with their hands. No weapons, no guards, just walls, made of wood and leaves and a roof that let in sunlight. Jack used what he knew from Earth. Sura added her alien touch. Together they created something simple, something theirs. At night they sat beside the fire. Sura spoke more now, not in full sentences, not always clearly, but enough. She told Jack about her dreams, about the floating gardens of her world, about her mother's song, about the day she flew her first ship. Jack listened with quiet awe, and when he spoke of Earth, of rivers and snow and laughter, she closed her eyes and smiled, not with her lips, but with her whole face. There was peace between them, but peace doesn't stay hidden for long. One morning a shadow passed over the trees. A ship, not human, not military, alien. It landed far from the shelter, but close enough for them to feel it. Sura stood tall, watching the ship. Her body was still. Jack could feel the weight in the air. Then the doors opened. Figures stepped out. Like her, tall, strong, with glowing eyes, but their armor was gold, their faces unsure. They had come for her. Jack reached for her arm. "Do you know them?" She nodded slowly. "Old guard, my people." The leader of the group stepped forward and removed his helmet. His eyes were tired. "Sura," he said, "we thought you were lost." She didn't move. "You left me." He lowered his head. "We were wrong. We followed fear." There was silence. Then he looked at Jack. "This human stayed with you?" She stepped closer to Jack, not with fear, but with pride. "He saw me." Another silence. Then the leader bent one knee. "Then we were blind." What followed changed history. Sura did not return to her people in chains. She returned as a voice. Bridge. With Jack beside her, she spoke at the first human-alien peace meet. She stood on a platform, once feared by billions, now watched with hope. And when she said the words, "We are not monsters," the whole room stood still, because now they knew. The world had feared her, but only the human saw the truth. And he touched not just her claw, he touched her heart. Together, they rewrote the stars.